chakra, the amethyst has fallen off my meridian.
Hiya, I'm Dom.
And I'm Misha.
And I have a chronic illness.
Me too.
So welcome to Anything Short of a Coffee Enema.
A podcast on which we'll discuss the things we do or have done to function.
And set each other challenges or tasks every time.
We are prepared to go to any lengths to achieve reasonable health.
Short of a macchiato, up your jacksie.
Since it was a savage, unforgiving Melbourne summer,
Yes.
we decided to go all like theme, more or less, last time. And I think you kind of got the short end of the stick, Dom, because you...
I don't think it was me that got the short end of the stick. I'm going to argue it was my workmates that got the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
but whatever. You become immune to your own scent after a while, I think.
So speaking of scent, you trialled natural deodorants.
You challenged me to trial some natural deodorants.
Yeah.
I trialled you to have... I wanted ice baths, but apparently that's not practical to have every morning.
No.
So I said, you may be allowed to have like a cold shower, not just like a... Oh, no, I'm not going to mention that because it was going to be rude. Although I always mention rude things, don't
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Generally, it's rude gestures, which I then vocalise.
Yes, it is enjoyable.
But yeah, it's the same sort of thing.
Not just a cold shower because you've had a long night or sexy dreams when you woke up and you're trying to not show your wife how excited you were about something other than her, but cold showers are meant to be good for the immune system, apparently, so said a cancer sufferer once.
Indeed.
In a Guardian article. I will also be reviewing a book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain.
Excellent. And I'm going to review a pair of apps that are practically identical. One's called Map My Ride and the other is called Map My Walk. They basically do the same thing, so we'll bundle them up together.
Woohoo! I'll do my review if you want.
Cool.
All right. So I'm reviewing a book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by a woman called Susan Cain, C-A-I-N. She's Americano. So I read this book because at one stage my psych mentioned I would get a lot out of it because I am, and this may shock you to your core, an extrovert. Again, pause for intake of breath.
Yep.
And I was having problems dealing with the way that I used to, G myself up for work and, live my life in the little ways that you live your life, listening to music or whatever when I was cooking and stuff like that. I found that was, again, shock horror, tiring me out now that I had a chronic fatigue. And I just didn't quite know how to make little bits of my life work because that was changing not just routines, but also partly the way who I am. And she was like, it seems so obvious now. I was obviously such a dunce. She's like, well, if you just treat yourself like an introvert in those areas of your life, then you're probably going to find, when you get to work, you got more energy and whatever else. You can cook more meals at once or whatever it is. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, well, extroverts get energy from the world around them, from music, from singing, from all sorts of things, people, obviously. Yeah. And introverts, it just takes energy from them to varying degrees, different people, everything like that, obviously. And I was like, that's revolutionary for me at the time because I was just going along my world, in my extroverted world, thinking about myself all the time. And so she came back and recommended this book to me. She's like, that might help you understand the difference, but it might also help you implement structures and ways and means and whatnot in your life. Just pretend you're an introvert. All of which has been super helpful. The way that I've done that is great. The book, Susan Cain is a lawyer. Yeah. And she writes pretty well. She doesn't write like somebody who's ever written something sciencey or something that's like a thesis or something. Yeah. But she's gotten over the kind of, there's no narrative through, really. She tries to create one. There's probably not one. That's delving too much into books, I guess. But in terms of the way it's written, it's easy to read. It goes into how the world, particularly America, because she's writing from an American's perspective, but we have a very Americanized culture, so it works here, how the world is kind of geared up to think that extrovert is the ideal, that it's the best, that it's the way you should be. Being an
the
extrovert, I don't
achievers.
necessarily always agree with that because
Yeah.
the amount of times I get told on a daily level to shut up, even by my cat, but certainly at work, by friends, the phrase inside voice dom has just like if it was a piece of flooring, it would have been worn through years ago. So, but if you're an introvert, then you're going to feel the opposite, obviously, to me, because you have a different lived experience. So she's talking about the rise of where that started to come from. We used to value introverts and the way that deep thinking artistic mind used to be more valued in like the 1800s and whatnot. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting read. And she talks about the ways you can, if you're an introvert, it is written for introverts.
Yeah.
The way that if you're an introvert, you can actually use that to your advantage within a work setting. She talks about various structures in terms of open plan offices and group think tank and all that sort of stuff, how that really doesn't have much science behind it, goes into detail about why that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It is really interesting. It's an interesting read. Whether or not I agree with all of it, kind of, I'm not 100% sure, but it's not written for me. So I don't know if it's for me to agree with, because I'm 100% not an introvert.
Yeah.
She does make a big emphasis at the start to go, just because you're shy does not mean you're an introvert. You can be a shy extrovert, you can be a shy introvert.
Absolutely.
You know, that does not determine, you know, where on this scale you are. Nobody's 100% one or 100% the other. That doesn't exist. You're just going to be on a scale.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting. She talks a lot about workplace and about society and about how if you're going to be living in that as an introvert, how you can model it and maneuver your way through it in a nice way. Also, how maybe we should change some of those things. And some of that I agree with. You know, just because I'm the loudest voice in the room doesn't always mean I'm right. I mean, to me, it means I think I'm right, but that's just because of my personality, not because I'm an extrovert, because I always think I'm right.
Yeah.
I don't usually say stuff without some thought behind it, although now I'm saying that, I think I say a lot of things without thought behind it. Whatever. The point is, I'm always right. That's the point?
Yeah.
Yes? I think that's what we've come to at the end of this discussion.
That's so comprehensive and so wonderful. I think the first really important thing for me is you kind of mentioned along the way there that, or you implied, and I 100% agree, that the terms introvert and extrovert are used in common everyday speech in ways that are wildly inaccurate.
Inappropriate. And she does mention that. She describes it a little bit. She doesn't break down, what was the psych's name that just, Jung, I think it was Jung, wasn't it, who group made it up?
Maybe.
She says in the book, and I've totally forgotten. It's too late in the day
like
for me
it
to remember.
seems plausible, who cares?
I think it's Jung. Anyway,
If it was
one of the
Jung,
dudes
he was an
who made it up.
Anyway.
Yes. She mentions how it's not meant to be used in everyday
No.
lexicon because it doesn't mean what we now often say it to mean, but she doesn't go into the exact description of it because you can find that in like the psychology handbooks for diagnosis and stuff. You can actually go and look that up. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So that's not really what the point of the book is, but once she kind of mentions that, then she moves on to make her argument. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like there are a couple of ways, like your construction of it's really great. It's like, where do you get energy from? Are they external or internal sources?
Yeah.
Another way of thinking about it is, where do people generally find their entertainment? Like a more frivolous version of introvert, extrovert is introverts get their entertainment within their own heads. Extroverts get it from other people or from environment. Yes.
She seems to infer quite heavily, which doesn't sit well with me, that probably because I'm the extrovert, obviously, that introverts they're just naturally 100% genetically born, and she does go into nature versus nurture as well, there's a whole chapter on it, that introverts are deeper thinkers and therefore a bit deeper feelers, like they feel things more emotionally. And she actually talks about some scientific research into that and why that's the case and how that relates to introversion, extroversion, and as you age and all that sort of stuff in the nature versus nurture chapter. But I don't think that's true, just because I don't sit looking out a window when it's raining with T.S. Eliot, although he's my favourite poet, you know, feeling depression. I also don't think that you should just rush through emotions. I think that if you're feeling melancholic, the way to get over it or the way to deal with it is to feel melancholic. You know, I'm not saying forever, I'm just saying you have to feel the emotion in order to kind of move on with your life. But yeah, so I don't know if that's 100% true, but then I think you're never going to get 100% consensus on that, because you're talking about you're talking about people's like personal insights, which they don't often share with the world.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
And also, just like purely from an anecdotal perspective, I am definitely way down on the introvert scale. There's no question. And number one, like I think it's a little bit too cheap and easy to say that just because people tend to be kind of quieter and a little more inward.
She doesn't say that in one sentence. It goes into depth over chapters and all that sort of stuff in paragraphs. But it is the inference at the end that she's making.
I think number one, that's a pretty I can totally understand if you're writing a book for introverts. You're not going to say, "Hey, you guys are shallow fuckwits."
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to say you've got wonderful.
I think that depends. It's on a person-to-person basis.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like the other thing that I would say about that is, what was the other thing I was going to say about that? There was something else. That's right. In terms of the deeper feelers thing, like easily the most consistent, not criticism, but this is something you ought to work on. I've heard from psychologists for a very long time now is a lack of emotional affect. So I just want to put that out there that, if you are an introvert and you're wondering whether you're kind of borderline sociopathic or something else is going on, that's totally possible
it's fine.
as well.
It's just who you are.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'm probably very high on the extrovert scale. Every Myers-Briggs test I've ever taken is just like
those bullshit.
Yeah, I know, but they're fun and they take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's just basically you're an extrovert with maybe some of this other stuff behind you. But trying to emphasize the extroverted bit, people, is probably why it's not it's not the reason I'm really loud, but it's certainly a reason I'm really loud.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was an interesting read. It was an interesting read.
I love that, and it strikes me as...
It is also, can I just say, fucking impossible to get a hold of. So
really?
I went and tried to borrow it from all the libraries in my incredibly bougie suburb, and they all had 3 or 4 copies, every library. All of them were out on loan, and all of them had a waiting list. So I ended up going back to my psych and going, hey, that book that you mentioned I should read, do you have a copy? And she was like, yes. And I was like, can I borrow it? And she's like, yes. Just be nice to it. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to lend it to me if you don't want to. And she's like, no, it's fine. I trust you, Dom. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound like you trust me that much. But she lent it to me, and there are no coffee stains or anything. In fact, this is in worse condition, I would just point out, than a lot of my books. It's got a dirty cover. My books don't get a dirty cover, bitches.
Because it looks a little bit like the White Album. It's a...
it's white with this tiny little, speech bubble in it.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's very quiet, the graphic design.
Funny about that, yeah. No, it's definitely worth a read. It's certainly interesting. Whether or not it's going to help you on a illness level, I don't know. It certainly has reinforced things to me about... So now I don't really listen to music anymore. Now instead of listening to music on the way to work and belting out songs from the 90s, getting my, No Diggity on, which I'm sure looks really cool in the car. Now I listen to podcasts and stuff because it's talking, it's quieter, it's less energy. And I also have different podcasts that I listen to on the way to work versus on the way home from work. Yeah. I will listen to one that's funnier and louder on the way home from work because I actually need that little spike of energy for the next 10 minutes to get me home, whereas I need the calm, quiet on the way to work. A bit more philosophy on the way, a bit more no such thing as a fish / my dad wrote a porno on the way home.
Yeah. No, good choices all. And I just wanted to say earlier to compliment your mental health professional on what strikes me as a very creative and really interesting and effective use of that paradigm of introvert extrovert. There's a way of making that work for you in a very productive and practical way. So props to them.
It's pretty good. I like her. That's probably why I pay her all the monies. Shower every morning, which would for some reason not funny to me. It will always be funny to me.
Yeah.
You having to get up and have a cold shower every morning.
Yeah, and do you know
how cold do you go with your cold showers, can I say? Because I thought it was going to be like the coldest you could possibly go. Chuck some ice cubes in.
Yeah, so here's the thing. There were 2 things. I could theoretically have gone to the supermarket and bought $10 worth of bags of ice and put them in the bathtub. But frankly, I wasn't prepared to go to that kind of limit.
So disappointed. That is really what I wanted. I wanted pain. And now, Having given my review of natural deodorants, for some reason I wanted just that little bit more.
I'm not surprised that you want more than just a tiny little bit of pain. Yeah, so what I did instead was basically think, okay, so I will go as cold as the water in the shower will allow. So no hot whatsoever, no warm admixture.
Straight to your...
Straight cold tap.
Left? Left is cold. No, wait, left is hot.
When you have one of those showers where there's just one of them, like if you have one of those showers where there's a hot and a cold tap.
Oh, no, I don't have one of those. I have one of the ones with the one thing in the middle that you pull up and move around.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, no, wait, I think cold's on the right.
Basically.
I pay a lot of attention in the shower, obviously.
Effectively, I turned it whichever way is towards the cold.
Yeah.
So I have to say, this is the one of all the challenges that we've had to do so far. It's probably the one that I was feeling most nervous about beforehand. Just in terms of, like, I didn't think it was going to be terribly awful. I just thought, I'm in for, like, a couple of weeks of
uncomfortableness, yeah.
Or I'm going to have to sort of wimp out and have a cold shower and then immediately turn it on to hot again and report that, I'm a complete weasel and a cheat.
Handsy.
Yeah.
Of the flower variety.
Of the flower variety, precisely. But what I actually found was, like, number one, this is really, really easy to do in Melbourne in summer, right? It's not actually a hardship.
Yeah, look. I probably should challenge you to do this in the middle of winter.
In winter, yeah, in like...
mid-July.
In, I don't know, like Canada or something. Because, like, if you're honestly...
You're just mocking me with now the joy I could have had.
I know. But, like, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, saying that you're going to have a cold shower in the morning is actually, like, you're saying something quite significant about what you're prepared to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably cheaper just to run out and roll in the snow, but...
Well, quite.
It could be more enjoyable. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could it be more enjoyable, Misha? You're the one who's done this thus far.
I don't know about rolling in the snow. I grew up in Ballarat, but it only snowed there like a couple of times while I was growing up, and I never
down
actually...
in Wales, it snowed there a couple of times, but...
Never did any rolling around.
Generally just meant I landed on my ass every time I went outside. Because I fall over, not because I just went, look, here's my butt, introduce it to snow.
I got that, yeah.
Okay.
My essential report is that if you're doing this for the first time, you are going to find it faintly kind of shocking and uncomfortable the first time you do it. It just feels, and I think it's because you're expecting a certain something normally when you step into a shower, being the coddled Western whites that we are.
Heat, as much heat as you can take.
That's right. You want a certain amount of steaminess and lobsteriness as you kind of step out. So one of the things I noticed was, for example, you have, or I had anyway, the immediate tendency to go into a kind of like hyperventilation. Like I found myself breathing in a really hurried and intense kind of way. But then I also found that if you just say to yourself, whoa, hang on, what are you doing?
It's just fucking water.
Slow down. Yeah, it's just water. Then all of a sudden it becomes, it's just water. Like, it's not what I'm expecting out of a shower. Do you have, like, after doing it a couple of times, do you have the vibe that it's just kind of like going for a slightly brisk swim? Yeah, in a way, and that's, it's really interesting because what I just want to say, like, I think my bottom line on it is, number one, it was the one that I was most nervous about, expecting that it was going to be uncomfortable. And number two, just in terms of instant payoff, I feel great. This is the best thing I've done so far. Really? Like, just in terms of stepping out of the shower, feeling energized, feeling ready alert. For the fucking day. Yeah, more like, I will also say that wears off pretty damn quickly. By the time you've toweled yourself off and dressed, you notice a decline in your sort of energized state. But honestly, like, as far as I find it really, really plausible that it's good for your immune system, because you definitely are aware of a feeling of heightened, as I said, energy. I wouldn't be surprised if circulation's going off the charts because your body's saying something weird is happening here. I'm desperately cold, so I'd better, Is that the reason why athletes post-exercise will have an ice bath, for circulation, or? I don't think, because I know it's for muscle recovery, but I don't know quite how that is muscle recovery. Yes and no. So it reduces inflammation. Yeah. And inflammation is really very much to do with circulation of non-blood. Yeah. But if it does increase circulation, that would make an awful lot of sense too, because the body's primary repair and rebuilding mechanism is protein, blood, which is delivered by blood. So it's probably in a sense doing both of those things. I mean, I guess the other thing about ice baths is, had I taken one, my life has been such a mess recently that I haven't really been doing any kind of serious exercise. Yeah. So I wouldn't have been able to report on anything other than... My blubber felt great. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and wow, it was really, really cold, and I looked unimpressive as a man when I got out. That would have, and so you can just kind of take that as a given. I think That's
I
what it
felt
would have
like a
been.
man before I got in, and now I got out, and I'm like, I'm starting to question my sexuality. I'm starting to question my gender identity.
That's exactly right.
What am I? Am I even human? I'm starting to look at myself going,
fashionable to
might
be
be
doing that
alien.
right at the moment. So then I sort of went looking for the whys and the wherefores. So the circulation stuff, there's a little bit of that online. I think a lot of that is kind of probably not to be taken super duper seriously. Like,
I always thought that circulation, maybe I've just realised that I was being stupid, because I was going to say, I always thought circulation increased when you were hot in order to cool yourself, but that's just circulation close to the skin in order to get closer to, okay.
So there's a big difference between capillary, what your capillaries do, what your venous circulation is doing, and what your arterioles, all that kind of stuff. So that's maybe not to be taken super duper seriously. But one thing I did find that was really, really interesting is that there's a pretty well documented, seems to be pretty reliable set of findings on things that are called heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, which is basically, the best that I could explain it to myself was when your body feels that it's being faced by extreme cold, extreme heat, or even just unexpected heat or cold, it'll assume damage of some sort has happened and respond accordingly. In other words, it begins as a repair function when it doesn't really need to. So from an ice bath point of view,
I wonder if that's why I can't handle heat, or maybe it's just that I can't handle heat because my inner thermostat doesn't really work anymore. So even if it's really hot, if I start off being cold, often I'll just stay cold. Or if it's really cold and I'm for some reason really hot, I'll just stay hot, even though my body has cooled down to the touch and everything.
Right.
But internally, I'm just like, God, I'm sweating. I'm so fucking hot. It's 2 degrees outside. Yeah. So
you
I
haven't
don't
considered the simple explanation that you may be a reptile.
I mean, that would explain some of the skin irritation I had earlier, I think, because there was a bit of scales in some of the rash, I gotta say.
Now you need to go and find a goanna and rub those deodorants on different parts of it and watch what happens.
I couldn't go for a blue-tongue lizard. They're a bit more amenable to handling, I gotta say.
Go for it. You don't want a monitor lizard, you want to take the easy way out. Go for it. So that's one sort of slightly interesting thing. There are so many weird kind of cold therapies are becoming quite fashionable at the moment, especially in the US, like cryotherapy, which is super duper, I think something like 70 plus degrees centigrade under zero,
it's props cold.
Crazy stuff. But again, people report stepping out of that feeling super duper energized. For really serious athletes, it really stops inflammation.
Okay.
Cold.
Yeah, right.
However, there is then the controversy enters. There is a school of thought which says if you have inflammation, let it do its thing.
It wouldn't be natural therapies, or it wouldn't be wellness, or it wouldn't be health, or in fact anything to do with humans if there wasn't controversy of some description.
Well, correct. But this is this one I actually find really, really interesting, and I think it comes down to more or less how do you want to treat injury. So think about it, if you think about it from an athlete's point of view, if you need to play again in a week's time, and what you really, really care about is your ability to function at some level close to what you're doing, then...
On the field, in 7 days or 6 days, yes.
Then you're going to say, get rid of this swelling, get rid of this inflammation, make this joint move the way it normally and properly does.
However, you've got a horse that's hurt themselves, then you actually... You often don't even give them pain relief, or if you do, you give them such a mild pain relief that they can still feel the pain, let the body go through the healing process, because if you try and accelerate it or change it or alter the feeling the animal has, they tend to do a hell of a lot more damage.
Exactly, and so do humans.
So coming from an animal industry perspective, I'm all, let it all hang out and just feel your vibe. You've got to go through the pain a little bit.
Yeah, and... thankfully, I think people are having a lot more conversations like this at the moment because of opioid crisis in the US and the, sort of unarguable fact that a lot of those sort of super duper hefty painkillers are being sort of over-prescribed. It's no good for you with back pain, for example, because all it does is it's masking a really important symptom, and you're going to go off and do ordinary things, think you're fine right up until the OxyContin wears off or whatever it might be.
But then you start to talk about the parasympathetic nervous system and whether or not, if it is not that it's not pain, it's pain, but whether or not there's a genuine now physical reason for that pain, or whether the body goes, That hurt last time I did it.
So-
I prepared myself for pain. I've set myself up for pain. I'm going to take the pain. I'm going to figure out a way to deal with it, which actually creates pain.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that thought, and obviously went off naturally because I was talking. It went into painkillers and addictive ones.
Yep.
That because that's just what I do. But again, like coming
He
back
likes
to
addiction.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. It's
All for it.
my job. It's just
Here for the addiction. Yeah.
Come for the deodorants and the boils, stay for the hard drugs. That's the podcast.
It's our new slogan.
Yeah, but even coming back to like really, really simple things like using cold as a sort of dealing with inflammation, dealing with some kind of pain, and same to a certain degree with heat.
I guess that's why you use cold packs and shit though, isn't
Yeah.
it?
But that's right. But there are people out there who will insist, and I think Gary Ablett Jr. is one of them, incidentally, that what you do is you allow inflammation to take its course. If your body says this joint's inflamed right now, then it needs to be inflamed.
Yeah.
And it's just going to do its thing until it's better, and then...
I agree with helping it in the process. I don't agree necessarily stopping it from going through the process.
Yeah.
Because I think you end up having to still do the process just at a later date, and it's usually a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with that, which does bring a certain level of pain to me, because even though I am a massive, massive Geelong Cats fan, and Gary Ablett tends, the junior, also the senior, all the Ablets tend to be a little bit of the nutty persuasion.
Yeah.
So it breaks my heart a little bit to agree with him. But I am kind of agreeing with him.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
It's a painful position to have, isn't it, as a Cats fan?
Oh, it's awful. So I guess the point where I'm at the moment, like, what have we been through? So there's the fact that it's surprisingly energizing and actually pleasant once you get... Like, I reckon about 2-3 days in a row, it was a little bit, I'm not quite sure if I want to do this. After that, it was something that I actually quite looked forward to. Mm-hmm. Just purely for the few minutes after you stepped out, when you really felt like standing up really straight, ready for the day, all that kind of stuff. That was fantastic.
Is it something that you're going to continue to take forward?
Not on de regular. I'll do it occasionally.
De regular?
Yeah,
okay. Sorry, that just sounded and looked hilarious coming out of your mouth.
So there's that, and then I guess the final thing that I want to talk about, which is again really interesting, is that another thing that exposure to cold promotes is...
Beard growth hair.
No.
Beard hair growth.
No,
Sorry, that should
I
have
would
been.
definitely do it on de regular if that was the case, for sure.
Have you tried rubbing Vaseline? Because apparently if you rub Vaseline on your face, it creates more peach fuzz, which in your case would hopefully expand into not just peach fuzz, but also hair.
Completely like an old wives' tale. I'm not going to be rubbing Vaseline into my face at my time of life.
Why?
Because it
It's like
just
you
sounds
want to
awful.
deny me joy.
No, but I mean, Vaseline in hair, Dom, that doesn't sound good. Oh.
It's a well-known skin female thing not to rub Vaseline on your skin.
Because it'll create hair.
It just creates thicker or more peach fuzz. Just your normal little peach fuzzy hairs that you got there.
Yeah,
which
right.
apparently women who wear liquid foundations, I'm not one of those women, bemoan, because apparently often when you put the liquid foundation on, it just shows up the peach fuzz hair that you've got.
Right.
I wouldn't think that was a bad thing, but...
Remarkable. I'm going to get this point in if it kills me.
Sorry, go.
The other thing that a culture will promote is the secretion of norepinephrine.
Oh.
Which is right up there with dopamine, endorphins as a happy chemical in the brain. And that again, like just in terms in terms of an instant feeling of well-being, which is pretty much what I experienced jumping out of the shower, that's pretty much going to be one of them. So
you're home from a bad day of work, instead of have a hot shower, maybe have a good shower. Cold shower for a good shower.
Yeah.
Maybe have a cold one. Better.
There is, and then there's, for really serious ice baths, like there's this, again, to come back to my guy, Callie Storrett, of whom you are not quite so much of a fan, but he recommends
announcing your betrothal anytime soon.
Sorry?
You're going to be announcing your betrothal anytime soon.
Fee insists that that's the case. It hasn't happened so far. He seems to be distressingly straight and married and with children.
Like you? Say, married with children.
Yeah, but I'm prepared to be flexible with both of those things. And
I'm prepared to work this into my life in some way, even if my wife isn't okay with it.
He really looks like he's going bald as well. I'm not sure I'm totally into that.
I'm okay with a bald man.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, if you shave your head, I think I'm pretty down with that.
Yeah, he went to shave. So, anyway, cold showers. You're probably more frightened of them than you ought to be. I don't know about... immune systems. And I also want to say that while I was doing this project, my son began daycare and he brought home like
all the bugs, super
all
bugs.
Dom had the plague of boils. We got all the other ones. Basically, was the way that happened. So probably, I mean, if it does affect your immune system, not enough to survive.
Not enough to
childcare
necessarily
for the first
give
time.
you a proper boost.
Yeah, but norepinephrine, absolutely go for it. If you're an athletic sort of person, you at least probably want to think long and hard, I would say, before you dive into full-on ice baths.
As to why you're doing it.
Yeah, as to why you're doing it. And especially, like, I think advice that I've heard from people who are really, really, like, into the competitive athletics area will definitely say that, look, if this is the difference between you getting through your next session and not getting through your next session, then yeah, go an ice bath. But if you're relying on it all the time, you're probably actually...
Then your training system is not working, or perhaps
you're
saying this is actually too much, or I can't get up for that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
that's the way you want to do it.
Cold showers and deviations. Excellent.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear about this deodorant stuff.
Bring it on.
All right. So, do you know, I do this every time. I'm not going to start by saying so either. We'll try something different. In a sweltering hot...
So away.
In a sweltering hot summer, Dom...
A drought-ridden summer as well, yes.
A drought-ridden summer. Everything was dry except for your armpits. We sent you off...
As it turns out.
We sent you off to try deodorants of a natural kind. And that means, I think... So what was your criteria? It's like no aluminium?
It means aluminium-free.
Yeah.
It is. I happen to also be someone who is cruelty-free in terms of my skincare and makeup and whatnot, because I work in the animal industry. There'd be no point me buying shit from Unilever which tests on animals. That is just not necessarily congruent with the rest of my existence.
No, that's fair.
So I did appreciate that. All of the ones that I got were all cruelty-free, super easy to find. I still actually can't find a cruelty-free aluminium-laden deodorant.
Yeah.
But, you know, what are you going to do? So the reason I did a little bit of research, and the reason why people don't like aluminium in deodorant, there's two reasons. One, and let's just get the stupid reason out of the way, obviously, early, is that aluminium's added to vaccines to, like, provide an immune response. It's called an adjuvant. I can't say that word properly. I've seen it written down a zillion times. Anyway, so there's a reason aluminum is added to vaccines.
Are you trying to say now that you're autistic, Dom? How many
No.
decimal points can you recite to?
I couldn't beforehand. I couldn't to begin with, my friend. Maths is not my strong suit. So the idea is that because there's a lot of lymph nodes in your armpit, that because aluminium in deodorant is there to actually plug the pores to stop the sweat coming out. That's why it's there. It's the antiperspirant part of your antiperspirant. But that really falls down when you think about the fact that it's not plugging the lymph nodes, it's plugging the glands. That's on the outside, like the little sweat glands. That's on the outside. It washes off. It's not going into your body. No. So it's not, even if you believed that aluminum causes the wrong kind of immune response from the body and can suddenly give you a disease which is probably just not diagnosed 10 years earlier properly. Whatever your reason, you're all crazy. Whatever your reason of thinking that way is, that doesn't hold up to any actual scrutiny. The other reason is that there have been some studies testing out the link between aluminium in deodorants and breast cancer, because all those lymph nodes are together. And they think that, because breast cancer includes the underarm area, that was all included. I did look into it. I couldn't find any studies that proved there was a link. I found 3 or 4 studies that proved there wasn't, but there's not as much into that as you'd actually expect, given the amount of people that have had breast cancer that have died, and therefore money is poured into it.
Yeah, quite.
But that just could be because I'm not entirely sure that science or theory holds up. Anyway, it's been tested a couple of times, probably will be tested more. There's probably some research going on at the moment that I don't know about into it. Anyway, so I didn't find any scientific reason as to why aluminium-free deodorants are better. I did actually really enjoy the scent, so I got 3.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I'm going to broaden my horizons. I'm going to try a couple of different ones. Stop it.
For all
Sorry.
the listeners at home, Merlin is playing with the Skittles.
My cat is either alternating between the Skittles or the wires, and just take the Skittles. It's fine. It's better than you eating wires.
Skittles pan wires. Skittles pan wires.
So I went on Nourish Life, which is an Australian website, which has all cruelty-free and natural stuff, and I bought 2 of the best reviewed ones.
Yeah.
I bought the La Vanilla in the Sport Luxe because I figured that was probably more likely to do its job.
Yeah.
If it works if you're sporty, then it hopefully works if you're sweaty.
Yep.
Which is nice and weighty. It's an American brand, again, cruelty-free. I also got the Schmidt's Charcoal and Magnesium. I take magnesium anyway. I thought, can't help adding more to it.
Yeah.
And charcoal is meant to be good for, I think, even God at this point. At the moment, it's very fashionable, so, I'll give that a go. And I also bought the Sucan, whilst these takes a little while for them to come out to me.
Yeah.
So whilst they were being delivered, I bought the Sucan Natural Spray-On Deodorant from Chemist Warehouse at like $7 or something. Yeah. Super cheap and affordable.
Yeah.
For comparison purposes, the La Vanilla was about $20.
Yeah.
The Schmidt's was like 18 or something.
And you were very clear at the start of this that you weren't going to be dipping your fingers into any kind of
Don't
unguents
put
or anything
fingers
like
in
that.
product. It's not my shtick. It's really gross. You get shit under your fingernails. Doesn't end well. Ends in tears. And I can't see how it's possibly hygienic. It just can't be. Can't be. No.
Yeah, that seems fair.
No. I'm not cool with that. So
we had days in the upper 30s.
I had a 42-degree day at work at one stage.
Which for all our American listeners is like 120 plus.
Look, it's fucking hot. That's all you need to know. It's fucking hot. Yeah. You're sweating when you don't have clothes on. When you put on clothes, you're just like, no. Just no. Anyway, I don't do well in heat anyway. So I was definitely putting into the sweat test. Now, I tried the Sucan one, and it smelled divine. I like a spray-on deodorant, so I was good with that. The other 2 that I've got, it was the only spray-on. The other 2 are both kind of roll-on stick-type deodorants.
Yeah.
So I've got sensitive skin, Misha. I didn't think the skin on my body was that sensitive. As it turns out, it's relatively sensitive. The skin on my face I knew was fairly sensitive. Usually my body's fine. Usually my body skin is just like, that's fine, you throw your stuff at us, we'll just cope and take it like a man. So I did a little tiny spray of this Sucan deodorant, which smelled so good, so good. I did a tiny spray on my armpit and I got a rash within about, I'm going to say 15 minutes, from my elbow to my hip, the point where I had to actually get in the shower pretty much within about an hour of putting it on and wash it off because I was just like, holy fuck. Yeah, did not enjoy it. And the reason I had to declutter it immediately to a friend was because I was like, it smelled so good that I was probably going to try it again. Because it did smell divine. It was a lot of essential oils and stuff. That one is bicarb free.
Yeah.
Which, as it turns out, is important.
This is the 4th episode that we've recorded and the 2nd disfiguring skin incident.
No.
We're not doing
Oh,
that
my friend,
well.
That's the start.
Yeah, right,
that is the start.
Continue.
So then I used the Schmidt's. Sorry, just pulling the top off it.
What is that? Dom has just taken the lid off the Schmidt's charcoal one. And it looks
this
like grey chalk.
dead jellyfish looking stuff that's slightly granular. Go ahead, it's been on my armpit, but go nuts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so with a stick natural deodorant, you have to warm that up in your armpit before you can spread it.
That feels
fun.
like an incredibly fine, like pumice stone or something, this one.
It doesn't feel that gritty on the skin. But you do have to warm it up in your armpit because otherwise it doesn't spread out.
Yeah, right.
Certainly in the middle of winter when you're freezing and you're running late for work, that's a practical option. Anyway, that's not my main problem. It smells quite nice. It's quite a nice lemony scent. Yeah?
Yeah, that's all right.
I think it smells pretty good.
Yeah.
So in terms of smell control, it says it effectively neutralises odour and absorbs wetness. Now, both of those claims, my friend, are hooey because it did not effectively neutralise odour. It just added a nice lemony scent to my BO by the end of the day, which is fine as long as it did have the nice lemony deliciousness, just also there was BO. Yeah. And absorbs wetness. It actually peels up on your skin a bit, so you just get like little lumps of bits of deodorant in your armpit crevices. So it doesn't do much absorbing except perhaps of itself. And
right.
also, as Misha can see that you guys can't, because it is weird, granular, soft, but also
Yeah, it
hard
sheds.
texture, it moves off the stick and down the packaging, and you have to clean it off every time. And also, as you're putting the lid back on, shave some of the product off that's got down the side. So it's delightfully hygienic and neat and not at all attracting cat hair. So I wore that for about 4 or 5 days, and I only got a mild skin rash from that, but it was still a skin rash. Even after one use, there's still a bit of a skin rash.
Yeah.
And it's like just thickened, red, irritated skin. But that at least stayed to the armpit. So I was like, you know what?
It didn't spread like across.
No, most of my body yet. So that was okay. I was like, you know what? Okay, not the best user experience, but not the worst. So then I was like, well, I'll go on to the La Vanilla one, which is hefty. Feel that. That is like some serious heft.
That is really solid.
It's really solid packaging. You feel like you could knock someone out from 10 metres away by throwing it.
If you had that in a handbag and swung it with vigour, you could do some damage.
Who needs mace? Yeah. So it, again, smells pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's got a slight vanilla scent, as the name would suggest.
That
but also
actually
some
smells like a
citrusy.
really nice kind of hotel soap.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a nice kind of roll up. It's a much firmer stick. It looks like a really firm deodorant stick that is a normal one. Again, you have to warm it up a little bit in your pips before you spread it.
Yeah.
This one actually worked really well in terms of I probably did sweat, but it never smelled like I got sweaty. Like it didn't absorb wetness. You know, if I was wearing the grey t-shirt I'm currently wearing, I would have had sweat marks.
Yeah.
But it didn't really smell like that. It just smelled like the nice deodorant smell. It was really good.
Yeah.
Except for the boils, Misha. The boils! Within, okay, so maybe they were just pimples, but they were pimples that are too big to be called pimples. They're in the boil territory of life. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but I'm saying you challenged me to it, and I got disfiguring skin rashes and boils.
This is great. So this has gone from a deodorant review essentially to the Book of Job, and Dom is now sitting on a dunghill. All her camels have been killed. The family
The locusts,
slaves
I
have
can
been
see
taken
them coming.
away.
Yeah. Oh god.
Scraping at her deodorant-induced pimples with a shard of pottery, saying the Lord.
I had to lance them
And
because
the
that's
Lord
how big
taketh
they got.
away.
Multiple giant boils down to my where your bra sits,
Yeah,
which
right.
super comfortable under an underwire or boil. Can I just let you know?
So I
I reckon it was the
that,
bicarb in the La Vanilla because bicarb's relatively high in it.
So of these three, 2 have given you rashes, 1 not quite severe, 1 biblical proportion boils, and the only one that you've actually gotten rid of is
It smells
rash
amazing,
one.
but it's the extensive
other
rash
two-
one. But the other two, I've
The other
still
two,
got.
it's just like,
yeah.
oh no, I'll keep them around. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I mean, I'm going to give the La Vanilla one to my mum because I've only used it
She
3
deserves a
times.
boil or two.
But she doesn't have sensitive skin like I do.
Right.
So I figure, and she probably wouldn't know the difference between a natural deodorant and a non-natural deodorant because that would require her giving a damn about that sort of stuff and or reading about it. And if it's not about bridge, my mum doesn't read about it these days. So, because she's been well and truly indoctrinated into that cult, the bridge cult.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So she'll probably actually quite like it. And it's probably it's still relatively small, even though it's dense, so she plays a bit of golf and tennis, so it's probably good to put in a sports bag.
Yeah.
So I reckon I'll give that to her.
Yeah.
The other one, I had to show you how disgusting it gets because I didn't think you'd believe that. But that is going in the trash, my friend.
Yeah.
Look, too much money, but I cannot have it because it's taking up room and I look at them on my little dresser bar table. It's actually a bar table, but it doubles for me as a dresser because why not have an alcoholic themed table in your bedroom?
Absolutely. There was a time when I thought exactly like that.
But I look at them and I get angry.
Yeah. Hey, what if
They hold so much promise and yet deliver so much pain.
What if I realise this is perhaps not the most environmentally responsible way of approaching the issue, but what if you were to use a cotton bud to apply something that came in a pot? Because Fiona happens to use this stuff called no pong.
Oh, I've heard great things about it.
Which I occasionally, I have to say, if I can't find
I can't. No, it's not hygienic, and
on a cotton bud, Dom.
I would get cotton in my underarms. No, it grosses me out. The thought of it grosses me
That
out.
seems fair. Okay.
I mean, I have beside me a lip gloss
Yeah.
Well, essentially it's more of like a lip balm. And the only reason I still have this is because it was free and because it's big enough
Yeah.
that I can, when my nails are cut, I can fit my little finger in there, wipe it, and then go and wash my hands quickly. But I guarantee you, if you came back to my place in a couple of months, this would not still be around because it would gross me out enough that I put my finger in there enough times. It's probably a harbinger of disease.
Yeah. Dom has a slightly wild look in her eye as she's describing that. So
Because it's disgusting.
to take these things quite seriously.
I do.
So
I mentioned this at the start, last episode, because it was, like, it is a part of me. I understand it's probably not that normal.
No, that's fine.
I don't like putting my fingers in shit.
We all have limits. So this sounds like, it sounds like bicarb soda and you just don't mix.
No, I use bicarb soda as my main cleaning around my house. So I didn't think, I can't guarantee it's a bicarb.
No.
Because there is
But
bicarb
there's
in the
something-
Schmitz. It's just
something
much
in
lower
there.
down. But there's nothing else that I can see that could, I honestly don't know what it is. I mean, it's got aloe leaf. That should be soothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Soothing.
Should do essentially the opposite.
Oh God,
of what really
why
happened.
me?
Maybe homeopathy is real. Isn't that the basis of homeopathy, that you take a really tiny amount of the thing that you don't want to happen?
Maybe.
That would be a turn up for the books if on our
There's-
pseudoscience show we prove the efficacy of homeopathy.
Oh God, that would be excellent, wouldn't it? I love at the bottom, this one has caution, discontinue use if irritation develops or persists. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I realise that now.
Dom's way ahead of you.
Yep.
Way ahead of
Again,
you.
just on the other one, discontinue use if rash or irritation develops. Yeah, again,
So,
yes. So look, actually,
Yeah, so
whilst
they're
the Schmitz smell good, and if in the middle of winter, if you're not going to likely be sweating through a t-shirt that people can see, it'd probably be actually pretty good because it does smell amazing, and you do smell a little bit of BO and the lemon nice smell. But in winter, you're not going to be sweating the same amount that I was sweating at work on a 38 degree day. So that's probably not going to be so much of a problem. So the Schmitz, I could see if it's not going to cause you your skin irritation later on.
Yeah,
That could be of use.
And you don't mind cleaning up slightly grey goo.
Ugh. Yeah, look, it's gross, but there are probably grosser things in the world. I just can't think of them right now. Oh no, wait, the boils. They were grosser. The La Vanilla, I really enjoy the packaging. I think the packaging is like nice packaging.
Yeah,
It's
it's
solid,
great.
it works, it feels good when you're using it, it smells pretty good. It actually did a really good job of smell control. If it weren't for the boils, I would keep using it. I have actually gone back and used it like once or twice just to make sure, like once, and then used other deodorant for a week, and then go back and use it again. And again, every time, boils.
Wow.
Boils. I'm now shaking it in his face. Yeah. So that's my
That's astonishing.
experience of natural deodorants. I really didn't think that was going to happen, Misha. I
Nor
really
did
didn't. I thought I was going to be sitting here going, it's cruelty free. Does it cure you? Does it cause you autism? No. Does it give you breast cancer? No. But it smells damn good and it's cruelty free, so I'm going to be staying with it. And I'm like, you know what? No. I've gone back to my probably tested on beagles and rabbits, and that breaks my soul. But at least it
technically,
doesn't
the
break my
deodorants
body.
You used weren't cruelty free; they were just cruel to you specifically, not.
I mean, no, these are cruelty free. They're all leaping bunny and so whatever.
No, but I mean they're cruel to you, Dom.
Oh,
so
yes,
they're not,
no.
strictly speaking, cruelty free. Like
Well,
you had to lance
yes,
boils
but you couldn't-
on your rib cage.
I mean, look, there's a positive in that I do quite enjoy
Lancing.
popping shit.
Right.
Like,
okay.
I actually kind of enjoy that. I occasionally have gone down that rabbit hole on YouTube where Dr. People pop up popping things, because I do find that enjoyable. And
That
when there's a dog
Instagram-
with a sebaceous
that-
cyst, I'm the first one to go, I'm onto that.
Yeah.
Can move out of my way. So there is a part of me that actually enjoyed lancing the boil. It was the fact that it was on my brow line and hurt like a motherfucker that I probably didn't enjoy as much.
Granted, and completely
I
understandable.
don't really get acne on my face too much, so I don't have that many products for drying up spots. I went and bought some to help dry up the pimple/boils.
Wow. Because like you said, you had, like you had teed me up for an interesting report on natural deodorant, and I was just expecting hilarious stories about
Stinkiness.
official
Yeah.
warnings at work
Yeah.
and
Yep.
disinvitation to a close family member's wedding and
Yeah,
things like that.
you weren't imagining giant boils.
No, as I said, I had nothing biblical was in my mind.
As it turns out, I wasn't either.
So you, Dom,
Yes.
did something nice and intellectual by reviewing a book.
Yeah.
So I shall
It's
be...
because I'm the smart one, out of the two of us,
That's right.
obviously.
Exactly. So I shall be nice and technological, which I'm not really, and review an app, or rather a pair of apps.
Yep.
One of them's called Map My Walk, and the other one is called Map My Ride. And you will be stunned and shocked to hear that what the app does, right?
I'm guessing, and this is taken from a very far distance away, it creates a map of either your bicycle ride or your walk.
It certainly does.
Shit.
And so much more.
I should get a prize.
You probably should. I don't know what, though. I've already given you Skittles and Diet Coke.
I know. I'm
Can
so
you accept
lucky.
it's a sort of retroactive?
I just feel so loved right now with my Skittles and my Diet Coke. I'm healthy. Shut up.
Exactly. You're healthy, and this is a health and wellness podcast.
I need something to get me
We are
through.
sponsored by Aspartamine and tumours on rats.
Yes!
That's what we are. So these apps are free.
And rotten teeth, don't forget that.
And rotten teeth, indeed, yeah. They are free. They're produced.
I love free things.
They're produced by the athletic apparel company Under Armour. Is the main sponsor.
I've never heard of that
Never heard of
athletic
it.
apparel
Yeah,
company.
it's American.
As I guessed by the fact you said apparel. Yeah.
They've got they've caught a bit of flack in the media because I think they have some of their sponsored athletes are like hunters, so like bow and arrow kind of hunters.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, so and they are like, I don't
Not
know.
cool like Katniss Everdeen, though.
No.
You
Much-
looked at me like you didn't know who Katniss
No,
Everdeen
no.
was.
I caught up. Hunger
Okay.
Games. Yeah.
Right, good.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I was like, I don't know if I can be in the same room with this person anymore.
If he doesn't know
Out.
young adult apocalyptic fiction, he
Jump
can
over that
fuck
balcony.
the fuck off.
Right now.
Exactly. So anyway, you can buy sort of more pro versions of both of them, but they don't actually add heaps and heaps of functionality that I think the average person
Probably just having what's ads.
would use. Yeah, for sure. So what you get with the free ones, to take them kind of one at a time, what they'll obviously do is they do a pretty accurate GPS map of where you've been. And it'll do you a nice line. So there are lots of creative people out there who run routes that will allow them to draw cock and balls, for example, on streets.
It is the obvious thing to do.
Because of course, naturally that's what you're going to do. It'll also let you other people in your area can post their favourite route. So if like you're travelling somewhere, for example, and you're thinking I'd like to go for a walk, you can have a look at what local people have previously kind of recommended, and you can have a look at what kind of route it is, how long is it, what's the elevation, how hard is it going to be, etc. So that's really quite handy. As I said, the GPS is quite accurate as far as distance goes. The really good thing from an
Is it using, sorry, totally interrupting. Is it using the GPS on your phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
So is it any better than just using the GPS on your phone?
in the sense of the data
It actually
you
will
get.
track it.
Yeah, yeah.
Better. Okay.
So the data you get at the
Give
end
you a
of the
pretty
day
picture at the end of the day.
yeah, is what you're after. So if you're an exercisey kind of person, it's a really, really handy, and literally I mean like exercisey even in you go for a walk.
Yeah, you
every
take the
morning.
dog out every morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really great. You can set it to give you little updates on your speed.
Okay.
And you
Today
can
you're
set,
dawdling, tomorrow super fast paced?
Kind of, yeah. So it'll tell you like you can ask for an update every kilometre, every half kilometre, every 5 kilometres.
Yeah.
If you're riding, usually longer sort of distances in between.
Riding
but
a bike, not a horse, people. Although you
Correct.
could do it on a horse probably too.
you could, absolutely, 100%.
Do you do it in the ride my bike category or the ride my walk category, whatever it is?
Sorry?
Which would you do it in the walk or the bike riding?
Probably
If
the
you're on
bike
a horse.
riding. It doesn't really distinguish because that's the thing. Like if you do a bike workout, because I've got both of the apps, but your data actually comes up, your riding data comes up on the walking app and vice versa.
Okay.
Yeah. But so the good thing is if you decide to yourself, I want to keep up a specific pace, it'll tell you, hey, in the last kilometre it took you X number of minutes to walk it. Your pace was
super slow.
X speed. Well, it doesn't say super slow. It's non-judgmental. It just gives you the cold hard data of kilometres per hour.
Okay. I would
And-
find that not as motivating. It's okay.
Possibly,
We're all
but
different.
it's strangely motivating if you think to yourself, wow, that last kilometre felt good, and it comes back, hey, you were 2 kilometres an hour slower than
Yeah.
your previous kilometre. It's a good kind of kick
Yeah.
in the butt to get going a little bit further. It also tells you the elevation up and down that you've gone, which is a handy little extra thing. It is
In Melbourne, that's 0 because we are incredibly flat.
Oh, look, it's not Sydney, but it's not nothing.
Or
in our little valley
like anywhere in
community
Canada.
on this side of the river. Yeah, well, all right, and it's not Tasmania, and you know, blah blah blah. And because okay,
Look, it's
so
not
you're
as flat as the Pilbara.
No, you're not.
We're better than that.
You're not gaining hundreds of meters at a time, but you know, when you're as not very fit as I am, like it feels
That's
when you
not
look
bad.
at sort of 50 meters of elevation gain, you're thinking to yourself, I'm practically Edmund
You do the
Hillary.
fist pump at the end of the breakfast club.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, with one black glove on. Yeah.
You mean one diamond earring? Is that what you meant?
No. I was trying to make it a Black Panther thing just to be really inappropriate, but
It's a good movie though. Anyway, continue on.
fabulous. So yeah, where was I?
Sounded like it sounded
It is ever so slightly. It's compatible with a really impressive range of external bits of kit.
Okay.
So if you're
Is this why you're attracted to it? You do like collecting kit things?
No, not super. Like I'm just saying I've never used these, but for example, if you've got an external heart rate monitor strappy thing,
okay.
it'll add that.
It'll
with
add
no
that into
problem
there
whatsoever,
easily.
and that's
Cool.
in the free version.
Yeah, I like that.
It'll do updates to your health apps, like it'll sync with those.
Yep.
If that's what you want to do, if you happen to be one of those people. I don't know how much you've used those, but I've always found them incredibly impractical. It's better to do it in your head. I find Dom is shaking her head in dismay. Or
No, it's not dismay. It's that you haven't quite understood the depths to my inability to use technology.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's
That's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's the fact that they exist. I know that they exist, but they exist somewhere in the ether for me. I mean, it could be in a Marvel universe for all I know.
Yeah.
But also, all the ones that I've seen for women do things like track your period and stuff, and it's like probably too much information for you. But I take the pill. I don't need to do that. I have a little tablet that does it for me.
Yeah. No,
That sort
I
of
get
stuff.
that, but I mean like, so there's like an Apple Health thing that just comes on your phone, for instance.
Oh yeah, I don't have an Apple. But
Yeah. No, I got you. But all that, it's actually, like I can't imagine that it's beyond your capabilities. Just from the point of, but what I do find is that it's just this like unbelievably cumbersome kind of, you add tons and tons of information into it and it doesn't actually help. From a future point of view, Dom's now just looking at her phone.
I don't think there's one on my phone. I'm honest to God, I really don't think there is one.
Anyway,
But it could be that I deleted like everything that I didn't understand what it was. So I mean, maybe so my phone doesn't work anymore. Anyway, continue on.
Probably a perfectly good move. So let me think. So what it'll be able to tell you at the end of your. So what you do, for example, when you're riding, last thing you do before you jump on your bike is just hit start workout on a 15-second delay. So by the time you're kind of up and wobbling off to a start, it's starting to track you
Has
as
adjusted
well.
the wedgie. Yep.
Yep, exactly. And then when you get off, you stop it, save the workout, and then it'll tell you kilometre by kilometre what was your average speed, how much elevation did you gain during that time, what was your total time start to finish, here's the route you did on the map.
Does it compare, you did this route last week and you did it that
you can,
Dickens?
I don't think in the free version that it'll break that down for you, but you can easily just get into one workout and go, oh, that's how fast I was.
Yeah.
Damn, this one took me 3 minutes longer than it did last time, or whatever.
And if you do have a heart rate monitor, it just adds that shit in there. So
Yeah.
That sounds
It's
like
got
magic to me.
Yeah. So then the super duper fancy stuff are things like if you buy the super duper version and you've got the super duper bike, it'll tell you cadence, which is just a fancy word for how fast, how many rotations per minute were you actually spinning the pedals.
Okay, yep.
Which is something that cyclists
Do you
find.
have to log into your, like what your tyre width and all that sort of stuff is? And
You would have to
diameter
do
and
all
that sort
sorts of
shit?
crazy stuff. But it's actually like, if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're pretty much on
You're on a road
700 or 700 mil tyres. I think they're all pretty much of a muchness, basically. But anyway, if you're at that kind of level of cycling, the other thing there is you're probably just using a dedicated cycle computer, I would think. You're not going to be using just an app on your phone. But anyway.
I don't know. All I'm saying is on Midsummer Murders, people on those sort of computers always die.
But yeah, look, Midsummer Murders people, generally speaking, like the first 5 people you meet in an episode are just gone, no matter what happens.
It's the music I love the most.
No matter what kind of apps they're using. Correlation is not causation.
Are you telling me Midsummer Murders isn't real?
I would never slander that documentary by telling you that it wasn't real. This is like a complaint that I think we're going to keep on making about these sorts of apps, and I know it's one we've made before, and it's simply that eventually they outwear their usefulness.
Yeah.
If you do the same kind of routes over and over again, like as I said, if you're going to a totally new place and you're a walker or you're a cyclist and you can't be asked looking at Google Maps and trying to figure out what's going to be a safe and appropriate route, you can just check out what other people in that area have done.
Does it take into traffic in the areas as well? Does it?
It's
Because
not
you know
that
how a lot of
fancy.
your Google Maps will and Apple Maps, is that what they call it? I don't know what they call it. Actually take into tell you if you're planning a route by road, tells you what the traffic's like.
They won't. But that being said, like...
Because that would be important, I imagine, for cyclists. If you're having to be on the road, that is kind of important.
Definitely. But then the thing is, like, if you notice a route that's used quite a bit, like if loads of people do this loop, chances are it's relatively safe.
Yeah.
Or chances are that account's been dormant for quite some time. One of those two things is true. So maybe I would check, like, what's the last date at which someone did this route. If it's been a couple of years, then maybe the traffic is not so great along that route.
Yeah.
No disrespect to any dead users.
Cyclists out there.
Yeah. But again, like, you're probably going to find... So, for example, for someone like me, if I'm riding the same route to work over and over again, bad traffic day is going to mean it's going to take me 3 minutes longer.
Yeah.
If I'm really tired and it's going to be 2 minutes longer, but eventually, like, I'll do it a few times, I'll get a really good average, and it's like, what am I doing this for again?
Yeah.
There's not too much point to it.
I imagine it'd be quite good, especially if you've got dogs, which you do have a dog, to kind of almost find new cool routes to walk the dog on a daily basis, because the same route gets hella boring for you and the dog.
Definitely.
So I imagine, in a way, that's actually quite a novel, interesting way to do that.
From that point of view. But and that being said, like, you know, again, this strikes me as a perfectly functional app, but there are loads of ways you could do that. Like, if you're on Strava, if you put your routes up there, that's another way of doing that, because Strava's like a database for...
He just looked at my face and I was like, I don't understand that word.
Yeah. So my favourite fact about Strava is that they published, without their users really knowing that it was going to happen, what they call hotspot maps, so where people use it heaps and heaps. And some Australian undergrad who was studying, like, international security or something just noticed all of a sudden, hey, it's kind of weird that people are using expensive fitness apps and things in, like, the desert in Somalia and Niger and other places. And it turns out
remember reading about that somewhere.
Yeah, it's like American Black Ops.
Yeah.
Special forces people who are doing their laps of there, so it gives a perfect security perimeter. So that's Strava, Dom.
Okay, I do actually remember reading something about it, but with the app name
Strava's
word, I don't remember.
bring down the Imperial Western running dogs by revealing where their secret air bases are.
Where they happen to be.
Exactly. Yeah, so there are lots of different ways, presumably, of getting those new routes, but that's definitely, like, I think... From, even if you're not so interested in tracking the specifics of your activity, if you just want a new place to do a loop or do a cycling run or find out where people do a, 2 kilometre sprint,
visiting
or something
family
like
in Sydney for a week or outside Sydney for a week, and you're like, I'm fucking bored out of my tits in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, I want to go for a walk.
Yep.
Gives you some nice routes, probably.
And also, just maybe what you really want to do is hunt for the person in your area who's drawn the cock and balls, you know, on streets in the suburb.
That sounds okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do all of those things.
They're probably also doing Pokemon Go at the same time as they're doing that, I imagine.
That would be, like, the most amazing piece of multitasking. That's like beyond performance art at that point. Because the cock and balls is performance art in and of itself. That plus
just a
Pokemon Go
stretch,
is
but yes.
just incredible. We've been through another fortnight, of tremendous challenges.
Tremendous.
For next time around, Dom, how do you feel about eating food which is, shall we say, creatively off?
I like cheese.
Yeah, that's a start. I was thinking
Are you channeling the Terry Pratchett yogurt is just trees that's not trying hard enough?
Exactly.
Because that is one of my favourite things ever, even though I love yogurt. Because I'm happy to just exist off yogurt and cheese. So if that's your challenge, Misha, I'm down with it.
Not quite. I was thinking more in the realm of fermented foods.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
slightly less exciting than cheese and yogurt.
So I know that you hate sauerkraut.
Yeah, because it tastes disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have other options, like there are liquid options. You could do kombucha.
Yes, kombucha is very, very fashionable, so I'm sure that's not going to be hard at all.
Indeed.
I've heard
And
tell of this thing called kefir, which I think is slightly like yogurt, so I could just recreate my own yogurt. I've heard tell of this, I think it's a massage technique, and I think it involves some sort of scratching or something. Anyway, called, and I'm going to butcher this, gua shui.
Yeah, gua shui, I think.
Gua
Pretty close.
shui.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm butchering
So
it as
I
well.
think you
But
should
yeah,
do that.
Cool. And I
And
just want
find out if that is in fact nice masusi or bad masusi.
That's one of the things I'm going to find out, but I am going to say straight away that I'm going to be self-administering this particular form of massage because in all of my 30 seconds of research...
Because you've had too many cold showers and
this
you need
one.
to get a bit more blood flow to certain areas. Is that why you're self-administering massage?
Pretty much. No. I think because the only place where you seem to be able to get it done in Melbourne is either at a couple of chiropractors, and I'm not the biggest fan
We're
of
not talking about
chiropractic.
chiropractors now, so that's
No.
okay. We can save that for another...
Yeah.
If you can find one that is not super expensive,
Yeah.
please go and have one session just to compare
All
and
right.
contrast,
That seems fair.
if you can,
That seems
with
totally
your
fair.
self-administered massage,
All right.
of which that's becoming one of my favourite phrases. Self-administered massage.
Yeah.
Does not sound good. But sounds like it'll be fun for us to hear about.
Thank you, dear listener, for listening. A few words in these litigious times before I tell you how you can get in touch. Anything short of a coffee enema is not intended to be and should not be used as a substitute for advice from medical and psychological professionals. If you want to get in touch with us, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at anythingshortpod@gmail.com. We gratefully accept suggestions for future challenges and books and other products to review. Or you can heap upon us criticism and abuse. If you wish to heap abuse but find yourself short on time, we recommend Twitter and Instagram, where we go by @shortofapod. If you like what you've heard, on the other hand, leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. Tweet about us, or, like the common cold or herpes simplex, spread us by using your mouth.